Thank you, Senator Carr. Senator Hanson-Young.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I rise to contribute to this debate this evening and, as one of the co-sponsors of this motion, of course, wholeheartedly agree that this regulation should be disallowed. Now, we've heard time and time again in the midst of this debate that the reason that this regulation is needed is because we are in the middle of COVID-19 and a pandemic. Well, Madam Acting Deputy President, what type of government cuts essential public services in the middle of a health crisis? What type of government cuts essential public services when everyday Australians are being told to stay home, don't go anywhere, do everything from your lounge room, your kitchen and your back porch? What type of government cuts public services, essential public services, in the middle of a pandemic? This government. It's this government who is using this pandemic to allow their creep of privatisation into Australia Post. And we've heard from Pauline Hanson and One Nation tonight that they are prepared to take the word of the boss at Australia Post and the minister that everything's going to be okay. Well, of course, here on the green benches, we are not so foolish. We are not so gullible. There has been no commitment given that this would be simply a short-term suspension, and in fact it's not. This regulation would put in place these new rules for delivery, for cuts to services, job losses, for another 12 months. And of course we know, Madam Acting Deputy President, what happens when the government cut public services. It's very, very hard to get them back. Very hard. Now, I'm quite concerned at the principle of this because I do believe that Australia Post needs to remain in public hands and needs to remain as an essential service for everyone. Metro, suburban, rural, regional areas, for everyone. But I do have a particular concern that for senior Australians, this is going to be a blow to them. People who are more likely to engage with government agencies, with utility services, with friends and family via letters as opposed to electronically. It's senior Australians who are going to cop it because of this cruel move from the government, this cynical move from the government. But I've also got a particular concern for those who live in rural and regional Australia. I grew up in a country town. I know what it's like when the government of the day decides to cut the public service and says, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, you're just a small town. You can drive 100 k's down the road to the next post office. In some cases, maybe it's 150 kilometres, maybe it's 200 kilometres, maybe it's more. I also happen to be the sister of someone who's been a postie. My brother's been a postie in a country town, the country town I grew up in. And it's essential, it is absolutely essential that in country and rural areas that the people who have these jobs right now are able to keep them. We know that we are heading to a cliff of unemployment that is going to start rising more and more. We've already had hundreds of thousands, 1 million people lost their jobs in the last 3 months because of COVID-19. Millions more are worried about what happens come September when the government cuts JobKeeper. Are we going to allow a cut to public services through this regulation that is going to mean more Australians out of work? Not because of COVID-19, but because of the government's actions. Not because of the virus, but because of the government's obsession with cuts, deregulation and the slow creep to privatisation. Thousands of Australians who currently work for Australia Post could be out of work because of this regulation. But as the One Nation and the minister tells us, oh, no, it's just for 12 months. No one believes that, and if you do, you're a fool. Slow creep to privatisation, it is the hallmark of the Conservatives in this country, state and federal. It's not going to change. Senior Australians should be very upset that their government is about to sell them out. Rural and regional Australians should be very upset that the government doesn't think they deserve these basic services. And everyone should be worried that the government is using once again COVID-19 as a cover for their reckless and cruel policy agenda. Only a couple of weeks ago, last month, the Finance Minister, Matthias Cormann, proudly said on radio their government's going to use COVID-19 for an aggressive deregulation agenda. Well, here is just one simple example of that. This government could lie straight in bed when they talk about their commitment to essential services, to public jobs. Every single time they utter their words of, oh, no cuts, no privatisation, look behind their back and see their cross fingers. We know the hallmark of this government is cuts, deregulation and job losses. This disallowance should be supported by the chamber tonight.